Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We came from group 9. The community as member is first Eryana Putri U, second Ardi Sekti A, third Teguh Kiranto. I am presenting my resume on research entry in education. The first matter I will submit is the quantitative research and qualitative research. They are two broad categories in educational research. First, quantitative research. What is quantitative research? Quantitative research is numeric data for its report. And second, qualitative research. What is qualitative research? Qualitative research is use words to convey its report. Quantitative research is divided into categories. First, experimental. Second, non-experimental. What is experimental? Experimental research uses systematic manipulation of variables on another variable, so they are at least two variables used in the research. And non-experimental. What is non-experimental? Non-experimental use variable for research but without manipulating the variables. Instead, it lets the nature of variable be. The manipulated variable is called the experimental treatment or the independent variable, while the observed and measured variable is called the dependent variable. Mostly non-experimental research form relationships including ex post facto and correlational research and survey research. Ex post facto research is similar to an experiment except the research does not manipulate the independent variable which has already occurred in the natural course of events. The research simply compresses groups differing on the presenting independent variable to determine any relationship to the dependent variable. Correlational research gathers data from individuals on two and seek to determine if the variables are related. Correlated correlation means the extent to which the two variables vary directly, positive correlation, or inversely negative correlation. And last, survey research. Survey research use instruments such as questionnaires and interviews to gather information from groups of individuals. Survey permit the research to summarize the characteristics of different groups or to measure their attitude and opinion towards some issue. Qualitative research seeks to understand a phenomenon by focusing on the total rather than breaking it down into variables. The goal is a holistic picture and of understanding the numeric analysis of data. There are many different types of qualitative research. The famous are 8. They are: first, basic interpretive study; second, content analysis; third, case study; fourth, ethnography; five, gerontology; six, narrative inquiry; seven, historical studies; and last, 8, phenomenological studies. Basic interpretive study is it provides descriptive account target to understand a phenomenon using data, collecting data method, interviews, observation, and document review. Case study, it is a type of ethnography research study that focus on single unit such as one individual, one group, one organization, or one program, collecting data method, interview, observation, and archive. Document content analysis. What is document or content analysis? It is focused on analyzing and interpreting record material to learn about human before. Collecting data method, public record, textbook, letters, film, steps, diaries, dams, reports, or other documents. Ethnography, it is an in-depth study of naturally occurring behavior within a culture of social group. Interview members of the culture and studying document and artifact. It is collecting data method. And fifth, grounded theory. It is designed to develop theory of social phenomenon based on the valid data collected in a study. Collecting data method, interviews, observation, and document review. Historical study, it analyzes document and artifact and use interviews with eyewitness to gain insight into past events. Collecting data method, interview, observation, and document review. Narrative inquiry, it is examine the stories people tell about their life and construct a narrative analysis of those stories. Collecting data method, observation. And last, phenomenological studies, it is begin with the assumption that multiple realities are rooted in subject perspective, thus an experience has different meaning for each person. Collecting data method, interview, observations. The material that follows will explained by Teguh Kiranto, time and place.
Thank you for your time, Adrian. And hello, I am Teguh Kiranto. I will explain the next material on this presentation. I will explain about typical step in research and questions that educational research asks. Okay, the first is typical step or step in research. The first step is selecting the research area. You are expected to state you have to select the research area to professional and personal interest in the area, and this statement must be true. To the importance of this first step in the research process is often underestimated by many students. If you find research area and research problem that is genuinely interesting to you, it is for sure that the whole process of writing your dissertation will be much easier. Therefore, this is never too early to start thinking about the research area for your distraction. Okay, and the second is formulating research aim, objective, and research question. The choice before the formulation of research question. Your research on approach it is discussed further below in more detail. Appropriate research aim and objective result from several attempts and revision, and this need to be mentioned in methodology chapter. It is critically important to get your research question or hypothesis confirmed by your supervisor before moving forward with the work. The third is conducting the literature review. Literature review is usually the longest step in the research process. Actually, the literature review starts even before the formulation research aim and objective, because you have to check it if actually the same research problem has been addressed before. Nevertheless, the main part of the literature review is conducted after the formulation of research aim and objective. You have to use a wide range of secondary data resources such as a book, newspaper, magazine, journal, or online article. The next step is selecting method of area collection. Data collection methods need to be selected on the basis critically analyzing advantages and disadvantages associated with several alternative data collection methods. The fifth step is collecting the primary data. Primary data collection needs to be preceded by a great level of preparation and pilot data collection. Data collection may be required in case of questionnaires. Primary data collection is not a compulsory step for all distraction, and you will skip this step if you are conducting a text-based research. The sixth step is data analysis. Analysis of data play an important role in the achievement of research aim and objective. Data analysis methods vary between secondary and primary studies, as well between qualitative and quantitative studies. Next step is reaching conclusion. Conclusion relate to the level of achievement of research aim and objective. In this final part of your dissertation, you will have to justify why you think that research aim and objective has been achieved. Conclusion also need to cover research limitation and suggestion for future research. The last step is completing the research. Following all the steps described above and organizing spread captured into one file lead to the completion of the first draft. The first draft of your dissertation needs to be prepared at least 1 month before the submission deadline. This is because you will need to have sufficient amount of time to address feedback of your supervisor. Alright, the next material is question that educational research asks. And the first question is a school research question. The example is, what are underlying drivers of geographical difference in educational attainment? And the last question, what are the factors associated with teacher, and what intervention and approach are effective in supporting and promoting of all in school and college? Alright, that is the school research question. Alright, the next is further and higher education research question. I will give you 2 examples of the question. First, what impact to future education, technical education, and apprenticeship have on improving earnings and career progression for learner. And the next question is, what are the influence on young people decision making at key education transition point? How do these choices influence their later economic outcome? Alright, until here the material that I can explain. And the next material will be explained by Ardi. And Ardi, time and place is for you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ardi Sekti A from Group 9 and I will continue my group material. And the first is I will explain about basic and applied research. Basic research aim at obtaining empirical data used to formulate and expand theory. Basic research is not oriented in design or purpose towards solution of partial problem. Its essential aim to expand the frontier of knowledge without regard to partial application. Basic research often has partial benefit in long term, for example, advances in practice of medicine depend on basic research in biochemistry, microbiology, and genetics. And applied research aims to solve an immediate partial problem. It is research performed in relation to actual problem and under the condition in which they appear in practice. Through applied research, educator can often solve their problem at the appropriate level of complexity, that is, in the classroom teaching learning situation. The next is language of research. Scientists need terms at empirical level to describe particular observation. They also need terms at the theoretical level for referring to hypothetical process that may not be subject to direct observation. They introduce new terms that are not a part of everyday language but are created to meet special needs. One of these terms is construct. Constructs are abstractions that cannot be observed directly but are useful in interpreting empirical data and theory building. For example, people can observe that individuals differ in way they can learn and how quickly they can learn it. To account for this observation, scientists invent to invent the construct called intelligence. Other example of construct in educational research are motivation, readiness, anxiety, underachievement, creativity, and self-concept. Construction may define in way that give their general meaning, or they may be defined in terms of the operation which they will be measured or manipulate in particular study. The former type of definition is called constitutive definition, and the latter is known as an operational definition. A constitutive definition is formal definition which term is defined by using other terms. It is the ordin is it is the dictionary type of definition. For example, intelligence may be defined as the ability to think abstractly or the capacity to acquire knowledge. And the next is an operational definition. Ascribe meaning to construct by specifying operation that research must perform to measure or manipulate the construct. Operational definition may be not as rich as constitutive definition, but are essential in research because investigator must collect data in terms of observable event. Scientists may deal on a theoretical level with such construct as learning, motivation, anxiety, or achievement. But before studying them empirically, scientists must specify observable event to represent those constructs and the operation that will supply relevant data. Operational definition help the research bridge the gap between theoretical and the observable. And the next is variable. Researcher, especially quantitative research, find it useful to think in terms of variable. A variable is construct or characteristic that can takes on different value or score. Uh, Research study variable and the relationship that exists among variable. Height is one of example of variable. It can vary an individual from one time to another, among individual at the time, among the average for group, and so on. Social class, gender, vocabulary level, intelligence, and spelling test scores are other example of variable. And variable has types. The simplest type of categorical variable has two mutually exclusive classes, and it's called dichotomous variable when an attribute has infinite number of value with a range is called a continuous variable. The most important classification of variable is based on their use within the research under consideration. When they are classified as independent variable or dependent variable, independent variable are action to dependent variable and are known or are hypothesized to influence the dependent variable, which is the outcome. And here contents. The opposite of variable is constant. Constant is fixed value within study. If all subjects in study are A grades, then grades level is constant. In a study comparing the attitudes towards school of high school girl who plans professional career with those who do not plan professional careers, high school girl constitute a constant. Whether they plan professional career is the independent variable, and their attitudes constitute the dependent variable. And here is the way to classify uh, variable or constant. If if apa if true all subject is study, if yes is constant, if no is variable. Is the is this variable assumed to depend on another intention variable if yes is depend variable and can independent or dependent variable take on an infinite number of value with a range if it can add label continuous to variable description and if no add label to categorical to variable description. uh, I think that's all from group 9. uh, I'm sorry if they are wrong word or rudeness. I hope this material will useful. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.